Welcome to the Tied Together podcast, where we feature everyday people doing extraordinary things. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share so others can join in on the conversation too. Today's guest knew there was more to life than that of her home in Jamaica, Queens. Chasity stepped outside of what was perceived as the norm and went from tax associate in the U.S. to English teacher in Korea. What should have been a 2-year endeavor turned into 11 years and new purpose. She is now a business consultant at LG and the CEO of her own company, Astute Abroad. Apparently, no one told her about the glass ceiling as she continues to rocket through life and leap over barriers along the way. Please welcome Miss Chasity Davis.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. It's an honor. Really, really.
No problem. I've been watching from a distance and definitely impressed with what you've been doing with your life. You have definitely jumped out on faith, and it seems to be working out for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know when I first moved to Korea, people were, this was back in 2009, before everybody knew like Gangnam Style and all of that. People were just like, where are you going? Is it safe? And I was like, I think so.
So you weren't sure?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is, when I was in college, there was this girl who she traveled to Korea on like some type of school trip. And when she came back with like fake Louis Vuitton bags. And she was like, Korea was fun. So yeah, I knew one person.
Oh, wow. And then, so how did you hear about teaching English in Korea? Because in 2009, we were both in our 20s. I had never heard of somebody from the U.S. moving to another country to teach English. Of course, it was a thing. I just had never heard of it.
Right. And me neither, until I think it was probably not long after the girl who came back from Korea told me about her experience. There was like one of those career networking events, and it was actually from Japan. They have this huge program. It's called JET, Japanese Exchange Teaching. So I had actually applied for that position, and I applied to work as a tax accountant at KPMG. I got both. And then I was like, wait, no, don't be crazy. Go to KPMG, be a tax accountant. And was it like 2 years later, 3 years later, I just was unsatisfied with life. Like I was just, I don't know, I just felt like I was so young and so full of life. I'm a very like energetic person. Like you and I are very similar, yeah. Very energetic people. And you know, there's like sedentary life, and I always wanted to travel. And at the time, my ex-boyfriend, like he was the opposite of me. Like he was a homebody, and I was like, I want to go to Alaska. And he's just like, what? So I thought back to that Japanese exchange teaching job. And I just kind of like looked deeper, and I saw that there are actually positions all over Asia. China was a little bit too wild, wild west for me back then. And to go through Japan without that program would have been way too, at the time, if you didn't go through the Japanese exchange teaching program and you went through like, you know, other companies, you had to do everything yourself, setting up your housing, setting up medical care, everything.
Okay.
Korea was like, we'll take care of everything. Just bring a suitcase. We got you an apartment. Healthcare is there for you. Training, like everything. It just looked so attractive. Yeah. We have your flight. I was just like, wow, okay.
Wow. So did you know the language before you applied?
No, not at all. And that actually was one of the contributing factors as well, because Japanese has 3 different writing systems. And I was like, damn, this is going to be really hard. And Korean is like English, where it's by letters.
Gotcha.
So you're just like putting letters together to make the word instead of memorizing characters. So I was like, I think I could do that.
Okay.
So it was like a perfect storm that brought me to Korea. And I think it was such a huge blessing.
Now, I know a few young women that are about to graduate from high school and are interested in this field,
Hmm.
and have been asking questions. And I said, I'll link you up. You and my aunt are both in Korea teaching
Oh, you have an
English.
aunt in Korea?
I do. I do have an
No
aunt in Korea.
way.
Yeah.
Now I want to know where she is, what city she's in, and what she's doing. I'm curious.
I will find out. I will find out and link you two up. But so I'm curious. So do you have to know the language to teach English?
No, and that's a common misconception. So basically, the educational philosophy on teaching ESL, English as a second language, or EFL, English as a foreign language, honestly, in this globalized world, it is English as a second language instead of a foreign language. But the philosophy is that you teach the language in the language.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you remember studying like Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
but our Spanish teachers basically spoke Spanish the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they broke out into English for some explanations of grammar, I think, but for the most part, they spoke Spanish the whole time. That's why we're
Right.
so confused all the time.
That is true.
So it's the same thing. You speak English the whole time. And most people in the world at least have like some moniker of knowing English. So you just
Yeah.
start at that baseline platform and you build from there.
I
So the
got you.
answer is no. You don't need to know the language to teach
That is
English.
interesting. And that
Mhm.
sounds like a very good opportunity. Housing, healthcare, plane ticket. You just bring yourself in your bag and
Yep.
you're
They
kind
even
of
give you a
set.
settlement allowance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you never know what you don't know. You never know. And you heard this from your friend that went on vacation overseas, right?
So I heard about Korea from her, but the
Mm-hmm.
program itself, I did a lot of research because I initially was going to go to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But, since I had rejected the offer the first time, they had this strict rule you could only apply once.
Oh.
So then I was like, okay, I need to look for other opportunities. And that's how we got to Korea.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, I would type in, teach English in Japan, and then like Korea would pop up as an option as well. And I'd be like, oh, okay, what's this?
And that
So
worked
that's
out.
how,
That worked out.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
you told me that you only planned on being there for 2 years. Why 11? What happened?
I know. Well, one is that, to be honest with you, you see all the great conditions, especially the healthcare is really, really good. It's probably one of the best in the world.
Hmm.
And it's better than the US. Okay, that's not controversial. Because it's basically, national healthcare.
Mm.
There's no such thing as like signing up for healthcare. Like it's just you're here, you have healthcare, period.
Oh, wow.
Um, and the technology here is very advanced, it's very clean, and it's one of those very concentrated cities. So there's like a hospital in every single block, there's multiple like clinics everywhere. So healthcare wise, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The subway system is really, really good, bus system is really good, everything is like, it's like a smart city. You just think of it like that. So whenever I would kind of think about moving to another country, I would just be like, but it's not hitting the same. And I did find love and lost love and found love again. And that also kept me here for a long time as well. So I have really good memories here and I've built a nice life here. So I kind of don't see myself as a visitor anymore. I mean, my visa, it says resident, like I'm a resident here. So I don't even really think about moving anymore. Though I'm not, I'm not open to moving at some point, but
Right.
yeah, I live here now. This is my home. I
You're
live
at
here.
home. Was
Yeah.
it scary to make the transition in the first place?
Oh my God, yes. Because Korea was my first overseas trip, period. So that was the
Oh.
longest flight. I think it was maybe like 18 hours. And the longest one I had taken before that was 6 hours to California. So I was just like, nervous about the flight. and you just land. And at the time, like, Korea was not that advanced in English like they are now, which is why they had the huge, English teaching program. So just arriving at the airport and like saying English nowhere and just being like, oh my God, where do I go? And it was very nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember that ride from the airport to the hotel for like the 1 week of training. And it was just so alien. Like, it's just crazy how that felt.
So where we grew up, you just don't see this kind of thing at all. You don't see it. You
Yeah.
don't hear about it. There are a lot of job opportunities right there in the neighborhood, like teaching, or, you could be a manager of a store or something like that. But you just really, it's hard to think outside of the box. What from your upbringing do you think made it possible for you to even look at this as an option?
You know what? I think language is such a huge door to travel and just to like a different way of thinking. And actually my mom, she's passed away now, but she had a huge love of language, which she passed on to me. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it just kind of, it opens your mind a little bit more. And you like learning Spanish, you learn about like Spanish culture, and you become like very curious about like the different countries in the world, right? And I don't know if you guys remember this, okay? 80s and I don't know about 90s babies. 80s babies will know the World Book Encyclopedia set, right?
Yes.
So they had this set specifically for children. It's called Childcraft, and yeah, they had all these different, and one was about the 7 wonders of the world. And I used to read that one constantly and just like fantasize about going to India. That was like my number one place I wanted to go. The Sydney Opera House. Now I'm like, boo. Like, how is that a wonder? And all these other places, Egypt. I still haven't been to Egypt, Rome, etc. So I've always had that kind of, desire within me to travel and just to kind of learn about different cultures. So I would say like, just like from my mom and from like my zest for education, and like just studying Spanish, that all kind of opened my mind to traveling. And
yeah, I can agree with you there.
Seed.
Yeah. Books as a whole will broaden your horizons.
Oh my God, definitely.
We were both kind of nerdy growing up. So you used to read the encyclopedia. I used to read the dictionary. I really did. Yeah. I did. And my cousin bought me a World Children's Dictionary, something like that. I remember it was blue on the cover. And I used to legit just read the dictionary. I'd look at all the presidents in the back, the state birds, the state flowers. And you could walk in the room at any given moment and I would be reading the dictionary. But it exposed me to different ideas, different places, different things, and made me want to see those things, be a part of those things, and have those things. I'm like, well, if they have that, and if this word means this, then can I have that thing? So I do think it's good to impress upon people to read books. Read books. Pick up some books. Even
reading was a huge, huge, huge part of my life.
Oh yeah.
I only stopped reading when I like became an adult and got busy, but I'm starting again.
Yes.
But yeah, I completely agree. Like, reading definitely opens up your imagination, and it's an escape as well. Like, I read a lot of like, obviously, like fiction books and stuff as a kid, and it's another kind of escape from your reality. And as you know, like, our realities were not perfect, meet the cleavers type of life. So it's always nice to kind of find a way to have your escapes and like your safe places. And mine was definitely books.
Yeah. Same here. Growing up, not just outside of the home, but inside the home could be really tumultuous. And you never know. It's so weird now looking back as an adult, looking back at your childhood, your coping mechanisms and what you use to soothe yourself and make yourself feel better. And books was definitely a part of that for me. I loved to read, and Harriet the Spy was a good one for me because I would
Oh
just
my
become her
God.
in my head. I'd eat the tomato sandwiches and be hiding out in my neighbor's attic in my head, not in real life, but hiding out my
Like,
neighbor's
that's
attic.
dangerous.
Of course it is, especially where we lived.
Right.
I would not be greeting you, asking you, "Where's your mother?" No, 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 no.
No, no.
But it's necessary. It's almost a form of therapy for children growing up in an environment that isn't always conducive to healthy emotional well-being.
Yes.
Um,
And the thing about that too is I feel like that helped myself. I can't speak for you, but it helped me to be able to project this happy disposition. I think naturally a lot of us do have a happy disposition,
mhm.
but being able to have that escape, like you said, it's like therapy, and you're able to kind of compartmentalize a bit more as well. And the same way you could escape in books, I escaped in like education period. Like,
Mhm.
I loved going to school. Loved going to school. So, it's kind of like as soon as I left the house, it's my world.
Like, I got
Um,
this. I can get good grades. I know how to do this.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's why, I feel badly for those who don't have a good education system, a good school to go to, because for me, like, that was my escape, and I couldn't imagine if my school wasn't a good school.
Right.
Also, I don't
Right.
know where I would be. No clue where I would be.
Now, do you mean good school as far as the level of education, or good school as far as the quality of the teachers, as far as them caring, or do you mean both?
Um, like, I would just say, because I'm just trying to think back to how I felt, like, just an overall like good environment. So, like, the kids are not too bad, like troublesome, like a lot of fighting. Like, I didn't really experience that much
Mm-hmm.
in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And high school was, sorry, middle school was okay. Like, it wasn't a perfect middle school, but it wasn't like other ones that we heard about. Um,
I went to
and
one. I went to one of the ones you heard about.
Girl, listen, my mom was like, you better take these damn tests to get out of here.
Right. Right.
If any of these, if any of your like middle school students are listening and you're in New York City or anywhere, take those tests. Take that seriously when you apply to high school, because I do think that high school is so important. It is. And I don't think that is emphasized enough. I don't know how it's emphasized nowadays, but um, so basically I have an aunt. She's 2 years older than me. So I kind of just like watched her and followed whatever she did. So she applied to the magnet high schools. Now apparently they're trying to get rid of them, right? But the magnet high schools, and she went to Stuyvesant.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw her and I was like, well, I want to go to a good high school. So I applied. I didn't get into Stuyvesant. I got into Brooklyn Tech, which, thank God. I wanted to go to Stuyvesant because my aunt did.
Right.
But if we compare our experiences, she was absolutely miserable because there was no diversity at Stuyvesant.
Okay.
And Brooklyn Tech at the time, had the most amazing diversity. Probably the 4 years I was there was the most amount of Black students, Asian students, white students, and like very diverse white students,
Mm-hmm.
Indian student, like everything. Korean students, like I was exposed to everything in high school. And the environment was such that everybody was a nerd. You know what I mean? Because we
And
all
you could
took
be
a test to get
comfortable.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were able to revel in your love for education and actually like support each other, because it's cool to be smart and to do well. And I remember being best friends with like a football player, which is like, who does that? Because it's supposed to be separated, like the nerds. But my friend who was in the football team, he studied like calculus BC. I don't know if you remember calculus. He was in calculus BC.
Wow.
So anyway, I digress. High school is important.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's a major stepping stone in
It is.
any child's life. You know, you're going from just being a little kid and stepping into manhood and womanhood, and you're really discovering yourself.
Yeah.
You're beginning to discover yourself. I would say, at least in my
Yeah.
life, I was right on the cusp of discovering who I was, and didn't really figure that out until I was in my 20s. But you start figuring it out around.
Definitely. Well,
And
that's where all the pressures come, like drugs,
mm-hmm,
sex,
mm-hmm,
everything. That's where everything
everything.
comes in. So I think your environment is really, really important. Like but I don't necessarily think that it shields you from that stuff, because there are definitely people doing drugs and having sex and all that stuff in my school too. So I mean, you're still a teenager. You can't be shielded from that.
No.
But at least you feel like you have more of a choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that.
Mm.
When you go to a school where it's more prevalent, where maybe
Yeah.
fighting is more prevalent and the drug use
Right.
is more prevalent, there's more pressure. So I do get that. You feel less pressured to do the wrong thing because most of your peers are
Mm-hmm.
not doing that thing. So I get that. I
Right.
have my son goes to a school that is night and day from the high school I went to.
Mm.
I went to multiple high schools. I went to Jamaica High School.
Girl.
That was one of them. And I went to August Martin. And
Those two are the ones that we heard about, girl.
I know. And then I went to
Yeah.
192 in middle school. And my first year in 192, there was a shooting in the hallway. So it was.
How come I don't remember that?
It was definitely one of the schools you heard about. Yes.
I
but
went to 192 also.
I don't remember you in 192.
Because we're probably in different classes. Like,
yeah,
middle school, it was like so separated. Like,
it
we
was
even had different lunch times.
Because you were in the top class, right?
I was,
and so was I. I was always in the top class. I was in 601, and then I went to 702, and then I went to 851. That's when they started doing the 50s in eighth grade.
I remember that. Yeah.
So maybe I don't remember. I think we were in
I have
together.
to tell you this. I have this so random. I have a condition.
What's the condition?
It's basically where you have like blocks of your like life that just you have no memory.
Really? What's the name of this condition?
I don't remember.
That would make sense.
Yeah. No, but literally there's like blocks of time in my life where it's just like it's either completely black or I only see flashes. And middle school, like all I remember was I used to go to the library a lot, and I was very, very close friends with this girl from Africa. I don't remember what country she was from, but I was in the habit of like, I don't know, I was in the habit of like befriending people. I used to always do that. And people used to make fun of her accent and things like that. And I just became like her friend, and we used to go to the library all the time. So I remember that. And I remember being friends with two other girls. One girl, well, we still like in contact, but she dated a guy from high school when we were like 13. And I just thought that was so great.
I heard stories like that too. I was like, wow,
I was like, oh my God. Like I was such a goody two shoes. I was like, oh my God. But
people have different walks and I'm sure she has a whole story on how, she got there and then left that space. But how does that come about, these memory blocks? Because I'm sure there are other people that deal with that.
Yeah. I think it's our brain's way of protecting us from, trauma. And like I don't know, like it's our brain's protection. So maybe it's protecting me from like a very bad memory or experience, but it's affected my memory in a very scary way, because a lot of times I try to think back to something. Like when I was trying to think back a few moments ago, like, why don't I remember you? Like, why from middle school? Like, I'm just so confused.
Yeah.
Because we're in the same class. But I can't remember
at least sixth grade. At least sixth grade. I don't know what happened after that as far as you and I interacting.
Right.
Right. I'm sure there are other people that deal with that. I've had my own moments in my life where I'm not missing periods that I know of, but as I get older, I'll remember something in great detail that was a
Mm-hmm.
traumatic experience that I didn't even realize was in there, and then when it comes up, I'm upset, I'm emotional, but it was tucked away for so long, probably my brain's way of protecting me. And I wonder if that ever happens for you, like you do remember something and it's like, oh, damn, like I really rather kept that stuff down.
Right. That's the thing. Like, no, I don't remember anything.
Oh, it just doesn't come back.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay.
Maybe it's for the best. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you feel okay with how you are and who you are, I guess that's all that's important. Just work on
Yeah.
Chaz for right now. Anyway, they say we need to be more present anyway, instead of living in the
Yeah.
past. Maybe that helps you out.
Definitely, definitely. It's true. Like
Mm-hmm.
I definitely concentrate on, and that's what I've always concentrated on since I was younger, was like the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that really held me together a lot, because I was constantly, and they say this to people who are suicidal or who have like who have lost their sense of hope,
Mm-hmm.
is, just look to the future, make plans for the future, have something to look forward to keep yourself like motivated and happy and upbeat and all that. So I always had something to look forward to, whether it was like a fantasy in my mind of like visiting the Taj Mahal, or if it was like going to like, this high school, or going to college or whatever. It was always something that I was striving for. So I think you just have to find that thing. And now, man, if I grew up at this time, I mean, there's positives and negatives, but I would be dreaming of being an entrepreneur and, being a YouTube star or something. Like, this is such a great time to be a young person.
It is.
Man.
You know what I find interesting when you speak about it being a great time to be a young person? So a lot of people are like really beating kids up verbally. Like this generation just doesn't understand that they don't have it as good as we had it, and blah, blah, blah. And I have a child, and he does not play outside like we did. Nobody from his generation plays outside. I have sent him outside. There's no one out there.
He by himself with a stick in the dirt.
There's nobody out there. And my thing is, which generation hasn't looked on the next one and said that they sucked? Every generation does that.
Right.
They'll be fine.
Exactly.
They'll be fine. And really, if you ask me, they're way more accepting and tolerant. They'll probably be better than we were.
I mean, I do have like pride for my generation, definitely.
Of course.
We can, we write in cursive,
Of course.
I just talked about that yesterday, but yeah, exactly. Every generation, and like they are smarter than us, I think.
They are.
They can do things so much faster, the way they adapt to technology, the way, like, I still don't know how to operate Snapchat. So I mean,
it's weird for me. It's definitely weird.
Yeah. It's like mentally something is not matching with this generation. So, I think they're way smarter. And like I said, they have more opportunities. Now, I think we're more like, I don't know, homegrown. Like we're more like, we have roots.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Especially because our generation was kind of like that in between generation. So we're kind of like experienced both. Like we grew up and we had like word processor.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember before we had anything to type on.
Yeah.
There was nothing to type. Type what?
Yeah.
Maybe the typewriter, but we didn't have one of those. You wrote your report. Right. I remember writing my book reports.
Yes.
And now they type everything, speech to text and whatnot. Right. So it's a much different time.
It's like working a different muscle for sure. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think this generation is like so convenient. Like, so they can use their brain power for something else, like we're sitting there writing reports. They can do, like you said, speech to text, boom, they're done. Mm-hmm. What's next? Like They have a lot of capacity. So.
Right. I'm excited to see them all when they grow up. I'm excited. I think they'll be great.
And they have these apps for learning languages, and man, like the world is at their fingertips. Well,
they can do whatever they want. COVID, but. Yeah, whatever they want. So just looking at you and what you've done with your own life and moving to Korea and being a teacher, teaching English in Korea, and now you've moved on to being a business consultant in LG. Before we dive into what that is, a lot of people may find it hard. I know I have in my life, find it hard to find the courage to do something as big as that. And I don't know if you realized how big of a move it really was when you did it. But how did you find that courage, and how would you encourage other people to, find the courage within themselves to move forward?
Man, you know what? And thank you. That's such a big compliment. I think you really do have to, either have a passion in life. And for me, that passion was travel, that the seed that was planted when I was young, looking at the world, world book and all these different places, the 7 wonders. So either having a passion and just going for it. At the time, it was funny because it looked like only rich people were really traveling. So think like 2005, 2006, 2007, it wasn't the same as it has been for the past like 5 years, where there's all these deals, there's all these like Black travel movement, madness travel, all these different you see all these Black people all over the world. Not 10 years ago, it was not like that at all. So, I just saw that, I wasn't passionate about teaching English, and I wasn't passionate about Korea, but I just saw it as an opportunity because I was like, okay, we get 20 vacation days. I'm going to India. You know what I mean? So I was very crafty, and I would look at flights, and I'd be like, okay, I could do a multi-city, so I can do a layover here. My whole point was traveling, period.
Yeah.
And I didn't have money, so I was like, how am I going to finagle this? How am I going to, find a way? So, just find a way, just have that focus. Or just be crazy. Just be like, fuck it. What's, the worst that can happen is I don't like it, and then I just go back, I mean, I think people, especially when you're in your 20s, it sounds crazy, but people in their 20s are start to feel old. They're 23, 24, oh, it's too late. No, are you crazy?
Just starting.
Yeah. So I think just not putting yourself on too much of a timeline when it comes to putting pressure, by 25, I want to be married, I want to get a house and all this stuff. No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous expectations to put on yourself. If it happens, that's nice. But I think people, because that was what worried me, to be honest. That time when I got the position with the Japanese exchange teaching, but I was like, no, go to KPMG, be a tax accountant, because I was like, I got to get these things done. I can't lose a year of my life. Now looking back, I'm like, that's crazy. Trying new things, and it's okay to make mistakes for sure. And it's okay to lose a year, So just have courage.
Yeah. Just
have courage. Now there's so many resources out there. At the time, there was one Facebook group.
Oh, wow. There's so many now.
It was called Brothers and Sisters of South Korea.
Huh.
I saw that. I was like, hey guys, I'm coming to Korea and I'm just worried. Is it racist out there? I was asking all these questions, and thank God that group was there. It's still in operation, by the way. I mean, it's thousands of people in that group. It's just insane. When I started, that group was so grassroots. It was maybe 100. And yeah, so there's so many resources. There's a Facebook group for everything.
You can find your tribe. Your tribe is out there. Right.
They got it all.
Your tribe is out there.
There's no reason to be scared.
Yeah. I agree. My thing is taking risks. I love it. I really do get a kick out of coming up with something new to do and just going and doing it. Even though I don't
Wow.
know how it's going to wind up, it's fun for me. And if I wind up doing the
Yeah.
same thing over and over and over again, I get really bored. I may get sad. I'm like, I don't want to do the same thing every day, day in, day out. But I understand that everybody is not wired that way. That
Yeah.
some people are really wired for stability. They want to know what they're
Yeah.
doing next week and next month and next year. And I have a 5-year, a 10-year plan, but I am willing to
Mhm.
change it like this. So I would say, yes, take some risks because you never know where it's
Mhm.
going to lead you. Like
Right.
I, and I don't even want to give a long story, but if you meet somebody at the library, you never know, they could have you on a yacht next month because things just
It's
haven't
true.
action, so just put yourself out there, meet
Yeah.
people, and you never know. And I love
Yeah.
that you were talking about how you weren't even thinking about moving to Korea or anything like that, but somebody introduced the idea to you. So just
Right.
be open to
It's true.
that. Hmm.
Definitely. And, as far as jobs, like growing up, you're taught, doctor, lawyer, accountant, teacher, like just kind of like these cookie cutter jobs. And so you're thinking, okay, I need to choose among these. Now we can add like, content creator to the list as well. But there are still so many jobs that you have no idea existed.
Hmm.
And the only way that you can find those jobs and the job that's going to fit you a bit more than the traditional jobs, if you're not interested in that, is to explore and meet new people and go to new places and put yourself in new positions. And then you'll be like, oh, wow. Like, you could be like networking somehow. You're at a party or you're at a professional event or volunteering or whatever it is. And you just get to talking with somebody and you like learn about what they're doing. And you're like, oh, wow. And like that is how these things come up too. So
Hmm.
you have to just like kind of keep an open mind and, you don't have to, be with the same people all the time.
Yeah,
Because if you do, it's hard to learn about those types of things. So you need to constantly, I say that, at this age, I'm not that big of a networker, but in my 20s, I did a lot. Like
okay.
I was all over the place. So I think that's important too. And when I traveled, just one more thing, like when I traveled, I didn't travel in the kind of like the traditional way, like get a hotel and then like go to the sites and then come back to your hotel. I was in hostels because I was like, 20s, like 23, 24. I was in hostels and I used to just like talk to people, like hours talking to people and learning about their life. And it was amazing.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
You never know where people have been, and maybe that's
Yeah.
why you and I clicked from such a young age, because we're both interested in listening to people and hearing
Yeah.
their journey. It's so interesting to just listen to people, because
Definitely.
I'm guilty of judging people based on face value. And then
Mhm.
when I talk to them, like, man, I was wrong. Wow, your
Yeah.
journey is crazy. Or you'll look at somebody like, well, why is that person not doing better? But you get to talk to them. It's like, well, that sounds like a rough road. And then, of course, I'm always
Yeah.
like, well, how can I help you? Girl, you can't save everybody.
Oh,
But
it's nice and sweet to try though.
it is. It is. It's heavy though, because for me, I'm genuine. I really do want to help. So once I say that in my head, now I've taken this on as a task. And then if I fail, then I'm all sad in my house, like, but I wanted to
Yeah.
help.
Oh.
It happens, story of my life. But
Yeah.
so what are some of the challenges that you faced in your new position in LG, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, so as you know, gosh, I started this year. And you mentioned my company, I Student Abroad. So I actually decided, because last year I was working at a military university. So I was teaching English and kind of like global culture or Western culture to Korean career soldiers, which was a very fun job. And it gave me a lot of fulfillment. But I decided, okay, I'm going to start my company. So I didn't, re-sign another contract with the university. And I was like, I'm going to move to Seoul. I'm going to start my business. And I plan to come to the United States and get all my, certifications and stuff with the IRS and blah, blah, blah. Coronavirus happened. And I was just like, oh my God, because my job required like going all over the city, meeting up with people and all that. And all of a sudden, all that halted for a while. So, and then I couldn't go home. I mean, I could, but I was like, I'm scared to go to the U.S.
Yeah.
I stay right where I was afraid to fly,
Mm-hmm.
and like catch something. And so I decided that I would get a job just to try to figure things out. And then once again, coronavirus kind of like limited me because they hired me, but I had to wait like 3 months before I started.
Mm.
So I literally just started like 2 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's actually really, really nice. LG, so the top companies are like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, there's a couple others. And culture-wise, LG is one of the best. Like they have a very nice corporate culture.
Mm-hmm.
So the adjustment period was not bad at all. People are so nice, like seriously.
That's good.
And I have a lot of autonomy. So I have my own office. I develop my own curriculum. And my boss, she's this awesome, I could do a whole podcast on her. She's this awesome woman. She used to work in Germany, and she's really passionate about advancing Korea, the country, you know. Mm-hmm. Their kind of tolerance, diversity, and just overall culture of politeness.
Okay.
There's a bit of a stereotype, and it just comes from the history, because mm-hmm. you may not know, but Korea was a very poor country until like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, mm-hmm. and the country just very rapidly developed, and the economy just like went through the roof in a period of like 15 years. And so the culture and the economy hasn't exactly caught up yet.
Gotcha.
And so we're basically working on that, so my job is a bit of English, a bit of culture, and a bit of like business culture all rolled up into one. So it's really nice to meet these very intelligent people. And I just sit there and talk about culture and business all day. It's very nice.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. So challenges, I don't know. I've been in Korea for so long, to be honest. It's been 11 years. I kind of got it down pat, if mm-hmm. that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's awesome. What did your family think when you told them you were leaving?
I was crazy. That was crazy. And then a year later, I cut all my hair off. So.
Yes, I remember that.
Maybe they thought I was like going through like Britney moment. That was another thing that like hardly anybody was doing. I cut my hair in 2010. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like when that wave was happening. Mm-hmm. So I moved in October and I cut my hair off in June.
I remember you had a whole YouTube video about it.
Yeah, you remember that?
I do.
That video is like unlisted. It's like private now.
I looked for it. I couldn't find it. It's not embarrassing. I said I looked for it. I couldn't find it.
No, do you remember at the end of the video, I was so freaked out and I put on a wig? Vaguely. I had cut all my hair off. It looks like it now.
No, you got plenty of hair.
And then like I edited the video, so I was like, I'll be right back. And then I came back, I had this like long
I don't remember that part. I do kind of remember you had a wig, I don't remember. But I remember that you did your big chop online. And then now look at me, I have chopped. Yeah. I am less than a week into my chop.
Yes. When you posted that picture, I was like, wait a minute. It looks so cute on you. Like Thank
you.
Adorable.
Scary.
I know.
I told my barber, because that's who cut my hair. I said, when I leave here, my anthem's gonna be "If I Were a Boy." I said, please don't make me look like a boy. But it is what it is. I've been relaxing my hair for 24 years.
Wow.
I didn't even remember what my hair texture looked like. And now it's back. And I'm happy about it.
Advice? Earrings. Lots of earrings. I think
I got like
exactly. Mm-hmm. I wore so many earrings, all kinds of earrings. Mm-hmm. I used to wear those. Do you remember those like kind of like Indian style, like chandelier earrings.
Yes. Yes.
Remember when those are in style?
Yes.
I wore those all the time.
That's okay, but transformation's okay. And doing crazy things like shaving your head or cutting all your hair off, it's freeing. It's freeing.
Yep.
It will make you love your face.
It will.
If you didn't like it before, or you're gonna love it now, or you better get used to it because it's yours.
Or
and
you're
it's
gonna
right
get
there.
into makeup.
Right, exactly. So tell me, what's next on your list of things to do for Chasity?
Well, I definitely want to start a family. So I feel like that's always in the back of my mind. That is definitely one of like the challenges to living abroad, I would say, for those of you listening who, like I don't know if I would say it's a sacrifice, because I do know a lot of people who've moved here and they have found love and they've gotten married and things like that. And I found love. I was engaged. But I had to be a bit true to myself. And, I think I don't know if I have this very ideal sense of what love is and what my life, how I want it to look. But yeah, that's definitely something that I'm pursuing. And the business that I wanted to start earlier this year, I definitely want to get that started, but I have to go back to the States.
Okay.
It's impossible to get certain licenses and things like that. You have to come to the US in person. It's just like you have to go to the DMV in person and things like that. So I don't know when I'll be able to do that. I hope maybe by the end of the year, I can visit the States and get some paperwork together and properly start my business.
Right.
So Astute Abroad is what's next, and hopefully, family.
So tell me about Astute Abroad. What will you be covering with your business?
So basically, as you heard earlier, I used to be a tax accountant, specifically an international tax accountant. So that is something that people have been asking me about for whatever reason. It was like 11 years ago when I did it. But yeah, it kind of lit a fire under me. Like, you know what? There's so many more like permanent expats living in Korea compared to like, let's say 5 or so years ago. So I think that it actually would be quite lucrative to start doing, expat taxes. And I've also, because I read and I understand Korean, so I also help people with their Korean taxes. I mean, I do that for free. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just like this, like, well, give me your information, I'll do it for you. So I'm like, I could probably just take care of global tax, period, for people here. So yeah, so hopefully by the end of the year I can get something going, but COVID-19 is holding back a lot in 2020, so maybe that's for 2021.
Maybe. Do you enjoy doing taxes?
I do. I know.
That's good.
Oddly enough,
that's good, because I'm just listening to you talk about it, and 1, you enjoy it. 2, you do it for free, and you would do it for free. And then 3, people have been asking you for it. That sounds like something that you're supposed to be doing. I cannot tell you what your calling or your purpose is, because I am not God, but it at least if it's not the purpose, it at least sounds like a good stepping stone to it. But I think that's awesome that you've been getting all those little whispers just telling you that you should be moving forward in that direction. And I think that's how life works. Like whenever you're supposed to do this next thing, whatever that thing is, it just kind of just comes at you from all different angles. And who knows, maybe you will have the family on the journey.
I really am leaving everything to God. Like I pray about everything. Even when I was engaged, I was like, God, I don't know about this. Give me the strength to make a decision, because a lot of times, and this is with other things too, besides love, like you feel like you're going through the motions of something, or you feel like, this is what you're supposed to be doing or what people expect of you. And, we talked about being brave. That was like one of the bravest things I ever did in my life, to be honest. Is like just choosing yourself and your own happiness instead of like the big picture, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. That's a big thing, a hard thing to walk away from. And the question becomes, the ideal picture that I have, or do I choose me? And to choose yourself is very brave. and very commendable. A lot of people don't make that choice because they feel like they're supposed to be going and getting married. But no relationship's better than a crappy one. So
I agree 100%. Like, I read this quote that was like, it's better to like sleep in bed alone than like sleep next to somebody. I don't know, girl, something. But all I know is I like having my laptop in my bed. So that's a problem. I'm going to go get a king size bed if I do get married, because
or one of those little co-sleep beds where they put the baby into the bed. You'll have that just for your laptop.
Or like Shaq's bed, you know, his circle bed, like something. Customized bed.
Something huge. Chastity, last question. Is there a quote that you live by?
Oh man, when I was in 4th grade, I did this book report on Descartes Rene.
Mm-hmm.
I think, therefore I am. This is so cheesy, but I don't know. Like, I just think that, to me, that quote means if you're thinking about it, you can do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the quote means like, because of the fact that I'm thinking, I know that I exist. I know that I'm alive, right? So, you know, your thoughts can definitely become actions. It's kind of like, if you can dream it, you can do it. It's like one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if there is something that's in your mind that you want to do, even if it sounds ridiculous, it's not ridiculous because you thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Just like I wanted to travel all over the world and I have no money. I had no path for that. You know what I mean? So, but I had it in my mind and I knew I was going to do it. I just didn't know how, but I knew it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I've literally just traveled all over the world with no money. How did I do that? I don't know. Ask God.
He made a way. I love that one. I love that. It reminds me of and I don't know the chapter and verse, but Bible verse, as a man thinketh, so is he. Because as soon as you think to yourself, I'm a winner, you are. You know, I think, therefore I am. If you think to yourself, I can't travel to all these countries, well, no, you can't, because you already convinced yourself that you can't. So I love that one. That's really good. Chastity, I'm excited to see where Student Abroad goes, where you're going in the next 5-10 years. Because if they are as good as your last 10, 11 years, then you're going to be in some pretty dope places. And just invite me to your island.
You know what? Definitely, you'll be on my VIP list.
I just want to come.
And when I come home, I'm definitely having a party. For sure. Okay. So just already have it in your mind that you're coming up to New York in 2021.
As long as there's no Rona, I'll be there.
I have a feeling she's going to be like, you know, in the background buzzing, you know, for a while, but hopefully she calm down.
Probably. Well, thank you so much, Chastity. I can't wait to hear about what's going on next. And when you finally get a Student Abroad running, I just definitely want to hear about it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was so good talking to you, for real.
You as well. And we will continue to talk. It won't be that long. We won't have those gaps like we've had over the years.
I know, right? Let's keep in touch. Definitely.
Will do. Thank you, Chastity.
Okay. Bye.
That release process is called faith. You have to have faith. If you have a God, whatever God you believe in or whatever you believe in, period, and you have faith in that being, in that process, let it go. You're the one who believes in this being, this God, this higher power. So why believe in it at all? If you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? So when you think about that, you just have to have faith. Like genuine faith. So yes, it is very challenging. And I go through those moments at night because during the day is so much stuff going on. I kind of like don't get in that frame of mind. But when everything is settled, everyone is asleep, all the dishes are done, you know, everything is just done. And I'm literally sitting there in silence. That's when everything comes crashing in because it's like, oh, you don't have nothing else occupying your brain. Okay, now it's time for the craziness. So it's all about having faith and literally speaking it verbally. Words are powerful. Your words have energy. So I speak sometimes what my issues are, what I need help with, what I need, whatever I'm asking for, I speak it, I manifest it, and then I let it go. And I literally have to let it go, because you could say, oh, I'm gonna give it up to God, but in an hour or so, you just stressing about it again. You really didn't let it go. So I literally have to walk, like, verbally get it out. And before I do any of that, I thank God. Mm-hmm. I thank him. Mm-hmm. And let God know that I know it's a rough time. I'm going to thank you for the good times and the bad times, because if it wasn't for the bad times, I would never fully appreciate the good times. So I go through a process before I want to let things go to God, or I'm praying, or I'm asking for something. I'm not just like, look, God, I need you to let me win the lotto. Look, God. And I have prayed that. I'm going to be honest. I'm sure a lot of people have prayed to ask, look, God, I don't care about anything else. I just want to win the lotto. That's going to fix my whole problem. But, I had to also, as I grew and matured, you gotta be careful what you pray for. You gotta be mindful what you pray for. And God's not going to give you what you really don't need when you don't need it. Mm-hmm. I don't need to hit the lotto. That's not really what I need. Is that going to fix all of my problems? No. Is it going to alleviate some of my problems? Yes. But it's not going to fix it. So I started to break down structurally and kind of like compartmentalize like what I really need to be successful. And money is not everything,
Right.
So yes, faith.
Yes, I agree.
Start writing stuff down. Because sometimes we have so much stuff jumbled up in our heads, and we wake up the next day and we don't even remember what our train of thought was, or we had a good idea, or we thought about something, and it could be like gone for forever in your brain. So my advice is to write it down. And a lot of times what I do is I do a pros and a cons list, and I write all of the positive things that was going to happen if I did this X, Y, and Z, and what is like the negative things. And more importantly, I was just being very real, and I was being very honest. No matter how weird a pro and a con could be, or no matter how funny, or no matter how silly, or no matter how crazy, if that's what I felt in the moment, I would write that down. And this way you have something tangible in front of you. And you can look at that even when you wake up in the morning. Sometimes you have a different mindset. You may feel a little bit happier, a little bit sadder, or a little bit more motivated, or you saw something on TV and made you feel a certain type of way. And you look at your list, you have it there, and it really allows you to really gauge and judge the moves that you need to make. Mm-hmm. Even a book, like I have paper everywhere. I have books everywhere, because I have a book for this. I have a book for that. I have a book for this, because I write things down, and that's just what works for me. And I have references to go back to, and it helps me make the best decision. So that's my advice. Write it, start writing it down and write it out.